We are live.
Hi, good evening, and I welcome you all to today's live session where we'll be discussing tips and tricks to get you sail through your SOP and your PI for XLRI Jamshedpur and XLRI Delhi. I'm Kanika Mehra, and I'm currently enrolled as a first-year student in HRM batch of XLRI Jamshedpur. And with me, we have Premankur Roy and Ashish Chaudhary, and we'll be joined soon by Shivani Singh, who are also first-year students over here. So we'll start with you, Premankur. Tell us about your journey, what tips you have for all these aspiring students over here who are struggling to write their SOPs or who are nervous about their interviews.
Sure, Kanika. Thank you so much for the introduction. So let me just tell everyone about myself a little bit, and then I'll get into the tips for SOPs and the interviews. So currently, I am a first-year student in the business management program at XLRI Jamshedpur here. Prior to this, I have about 20 months of work experience. I graduated from BIT Mesra and in 2020. And after coming to XLRI, I have been quite involved apart from the academics, even in the co-curricular, extracurricular activities. And I'll be interning at Dabur in their sales and marketing domain, where I got the internship through winning a national case competition. And the tips that I have for the statement of purpose and the personal interviews, I'm going to share right now. So for the SOPs, all the questions I feel should actually have some personalized touch that is from your end, that actually reflects the kind of person that you are, rather than going for generic answers, right? The answers that could be applicable for probably each one of us on the call. I would try to stay away from such answers and rather go from answers that have been drawn from personal experiences in my life, be it my personal life or my professional life. I feel those kind of answers actually give you talking points for the interview. And some of those answers might intrigue, might interest the interviewers, and they might ask you follow-up questions on the same. So I think all the answers that you mention in your SOPs should be a little personalized to just you and not just for any MBA candidate that there is out there. So that would be point number one. Point number two, I think in terms of SOPs would be, you might get 4 questions for HR and 4 for BM. And in my opinion, you should make all your answers as exclusive of each other as possible, because you are only getting a limited amount of words that you are able to showcase your interviewer towards your own profile. So try to make those anecdotes, those storylines, those answers as different from each other as possible, so that you can get a chance to showcase different aspects of your personality, of your experiences, of your learnings as well. So these are the 2 major key points that I have for the statement of purpose questions that you guys might have to submit by tomorrow EOD, I am assuming. In terms of personal interviews, I feel the first and foremost thing for cracking any personal interview is self-belief and confidence. Like right now, I still get asked by a lot of people as to, okay, fine, I have XXX percentile. How much of a chance do I have of converting my XLRI call, right? And I feel that kind of an attitude is absolutely a no-go for the Excel interview. If you have a call, trust me, if XLRI is the professors of XLRI are spending so much of their time in interviewing you, then you have a shot as good as anyone else of cracking that interview. So first and foremost would be self-belief and confidence. Second, I would say is well-prepared answers for the basic personal questions. Tell me something about yourself. Why do you want to do an MBA? Why the HR specialization or the business management specialization? Why a priority of one over the other? Your strengths and weaknesses, biggest achievements and failures, something that is not on your SOP, something that is not on your form, your hobbies, interests, role models, your UG subjects, your work experience. So these are the kind of questions that you should know thoroughly. Like you should have absolutely 100% well-versed understanding about your own profile in and out. So this is another important point. Moving on, I feel some amount of general awareness and general knowledge for current affairs, for other things that are going on in the world, in the business world, in the political world, in terms of policies, etc. I think all of these things are important. They might specifically ask you to tell you, okay, what's going on in today's world? Are you following the news regularly or something like that? So reading the newspaper every day to actually brush up on those things is, I think, also of a lot of importance. And apart from that, I feel you should have some good anecdotes and stories from your own personal life experiences, uh, which actually provide you with a lot of learning that you can showcase in the interview whenever asked questions related to that. What kind of failures you had? What did you take away from that? What was your achievement? What do you take away from that? Or the kind of learnings that you probably took away from something that you read, something that you saw, something that you're actually willing to or looking forward to apply in your MBA life or in your life in the corporate ahead. So these are some of the things that I think are a must for a great interview prep. So that's about me. But yeah, and a few more things I would say is be punctual. Always join your meeting prior to the time that is allotted to you. Smile, be confident, dress to impress. I would say that grooming is also of high importance and some people take it very casually. So I would say that dress to impress. Be expressive in your answers, be expressive in whatever you are saying. Have an eye contact with the interviewer in whatever way it's possible on this Zoom setup, but try to have that connect established between you and the interviewer. And have a glass of water on your table. I think it is something very underrated, but having a glass of water on your table, it gives you with some level of confidence. And if you actually want to reach out for water, fiddling with a bottle at the last moment does not look very professional. So one very small tip that I incorporated would be that. So that's about it from my end. I would forward it to Ashish.
So, hello. I'm a part of the cohort of HRM batch 2022 to 24, XLRI first year. Before coming to XLRI, I did engineering from State Government Engineering College from West Bengal. I'm a fresher. I'm a pass out of 2022 batch, and I scored 99.94 in that. And for the SOP, what I would say is that you need to relate your personal experiences, because if we focus on the UG degrees or the work ex, that's quite similar, but your personal life is something that belongs to just you. So try to focus on that and also focus on what differentiates you from others. And for the PI, there are a few tips that if you are a fresher, try to be focused on your UG subjects, especially choose one or two subjects that are your strong points and just revise the concepts because they will come in handy. And if you are a person with WorkX, you need to be aware of the policies of your company, especially if you are appearing for the HR interview. Also, you need to decide if you have not decided yet, you just need to show which domain in MBA, for example, sales or marketing or finance, whichever interests you. That is kind of important. Also, try to get acquainted with the current affairs, especially those that deals with your UG subjects and your WorkX and your geographical location, and try to relate personal experiences in a way that shows your storytelling ability. And if you must be worried if your percentile is in the low 90s or late 80s, you might be worried about whether you'll be able to convert your call. Don't focus on that. If you have a call from XLRI, you have 100% chance if you give your best. And also don't focus if your UG college is not that good or your profile is not that good. Don't try to focus on that. People are here from every kind of diverse background, and you grow up here intellectually, so you don't need to focus on what you did before that. Just try to focus on the interview and don't try to project yourself as a person that you are not, because the professors who will be taking the interview are erudite enough to understand what you are being honest at and what you are being dishonest at. Don't try to do that. Just try to be honest and don't pressurize yourself. And even if the professors try to grill you, don't let that expression show on your face and try to smile in the interview. That's about it. I would like to Shivani to do the comments.
So hi everyone, my name is Shivani Singh. I'm a part of the BM cohort of XLRI Jamshedpur 2022-24. Before coming to, so I'm a mechanical engineer. I have 3 years of work experience in automobile R&D. And yeah, so what I would like to say about the SOP is that you have some 8 or something questions in your SOP. I would say try to make every question, every answer different from each other, because when the professors are going through the answers, they shouldn't feel like they've already been through this, or they shouldn't get bored in between. Your answers should be very, have a very easy flow. The readability should be very good so that, they stay in the reader's mind for a while. So that's about that. And about the PI, the first question that gets asked in almost every PI is that, tell me something about yourself. That should be a story according to me. And it shouldn't be a very long answer per se. 1.5 minutes is enough. It should not cross more than that. And in that, you cannot tell your entire story in 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. So what I would say is you should put your best foot forward. Whatever is best about you should go into that. If you have any hobbies, for example, art, craft, whatever it is, make sure you mention it and make sure you speak at least 2 sentences about it so that it stays in the professor's mind. It might happen that whatever your hobby is, the professor could relate to it, and then the conversation just takes that turn. And if that happens, that is the best case scenario, according to me. This happened to me in my HR interview, and it went great. If you're into books, mention what kind of books, fiction, non-fiction, whatever genre it is. If you're very keen about it, mention your last read book or your favorite author, or that's it. Don't spend a lot of time on it, but make sure you spend enough time for the professor to remember it. And yeah, that's that. And if you have a lot of work experience, for example, say 2.5, 3 years, your ACADS might not be that big a problem. But whatever you do at work, you should be very thorough about. And when they ask you what you do at work, you should have a very well-rehearsed answer for it, but it also shouldn't show from your delivery that you have already prepared it or spent some time about it. It should be very easy flowing. And whatever they ask about it, just make sure you know and make sure you deliver it very in a way that the person understands it. For example, if you are a software engineer or something like that, you might have technical jargons that you use on a daily basis. Those jargons, the professors might not understand. So make sure you make the answer sound as if even a child from 7th standard could understand it. That's that. That's all I have for now. Yeah.
So you guys have covered most of the points, but I would still like to go through. So I have a bachelor's in chemistry from Kirodimal College, University of Delhi. And then I have a master's in environmental sciences from Cherry. And I worked as a scientific officer with International Water Management Institute. So during my personal interview, most of my questions were related to the work that I did. And a lot of behavioral questions were extracted from that. So just be very confident about whatever you are mentioning. Do not be superfluous, because if you mention something and you do not know enough about it, that's a bad sign. So don't make sure whatever you're mentioning, if you're mentioning a favorite book, a favorite author, or any hobby, just make sure that you know something about it for you to steer the conversation towards it. In case you mention something that you like, and then if you do not know enough about it, that kind of comes across as being a little pretentious, and you have to keep it very real in the interview. For the SOP, most of the points have again been covered over here. Be a little personalize it. Like it shouldn't look like standard template answers. And yeah, that's mostly about it. Now we'll take interviews that we have from you guys. And I see one question over here. Somebody is asking, can I mention I want to get into PM domain in my SOP for XLRI BM course, considering that I have only 9 months of work experience in quality assurance domain. Also, does anyone know about XLRI Double Rutgers program and how its prospects are? Would anyone of you like to take this question?
Yeah, so So PM domain, yes, you can mention it. Of course, you can mention it. Just make sure that you know what a program manager does and how, why you want to do it. As in how your previous work experience or your education or whatever for that matter, whatever motivated you for program management, how it relates to it. Make sure you have a story in place. That's all. And about the Rutgers program, so our batch was the first one to have that. Basically, what happens is you spend 1 year in Jamshedpur, 3 terms in Jamshedpur, and once that is done, you move to US for the Rutgers University, and you do 3 terms over there. As far as placements are considered, you don't get placement in the first year, as in the summer internships that we have. The students in Rutgers program don't have that. Final placement, I'm not very sure about.
So yeah, I'll just take that up. So adding to both the questions, if you want to actually mention that you want to get into product management or program management or whatever by PM you mean, you should go ahead and mention that in your SOP only and only if you have some reasoning, proper reasoning, some connecting the dots as to why you want to do that. Only then you should go ahead and mention that. And talking about the double Rutgers program, it's actually a specialization in logistics and supply chain management. So where 1 year in you study with the BM program at XLRI Jamshedpur. Along with it, you also have other specialization courses specifically in the operations management domain. And while the summer internship placements do not happen parallelly with the business management students, but they do have a separate placement program that goes on for their summer internships, which happens at a later stage. For the second year, they move to Rutgers University, New Jersey in US to complete their master's in science there. So you get a dual degree program there. For the final placements, I don't think XLRI has the support for the final placements for this program.
I'll direct the next question to you, Ashish. Aditya is asking that he doesn't have a graduation certificate as he's still currently enrolled, is pursuing his graduation. So should he upload just all the mark sheets and compile them in a file, all the mark sheets together?
Yeah, you can do that till the semester that result has been published, because like my final semesters happened after I came to XLRI, and that's the same story because we were the COVID batch during the month of June. So you don't need to worry about that. And whenever you get through the final semesters, whatever results you have, the provisional certificate, you can submit it for even the internship program. You don't need to worry about that.
Then Knight Aslan is asking if a candidate have OCD, should he mention it during any point in the interview or SOP? So obsessive compulsive disorder I'm getting. So I would suggest that life at XLRI or at any B school is extremely rigorous and it's mentally and physically extremely demanding. So I think when you are coming across as a potential candidate, you should come across as somebody who's very confident and who has that mental capacity to take all the blows that a B school journey that gives you. So I would, my personal suggestion would be to not mention about OCD or any other disorder that you might be facing. But if anybody else in the panel has any differing opinion.
So, I mean, I would just like to add to what Kanika said. If there have been instances in your life where you have faced setbacks or challenges or health issues, and if you have actually overcome those and learned something out of it, then probably you should consider mentioning it in some part of your interview, which might show your growth as a person, right? But if you're currently going through something, I'm not sure if it would actually present the best case for you in terms of the interview.
Pallav Agarwal is asking for HR SOP. Is it okay if I pick up sensitive aspects from my life? Let's say, for example, having faced violence and build up on the same, or is it too emotional of an approach? Again, similar to the previous question, if you have a learning arc, if you've come out stronger, victorious, if you have went against the odds and achieved something, then that's a very great story to say, to make. However, if you are having an ongoing emotional issues, and if you're still dealing with those, then it might not help your case that much, because the professor might doubt if you will be able to bear all the emotional pressures and mental pressures that come up with the life at a B school. It's so you have to make that call. So the next question is from Arya Srivastav. I had my third year specialization of PMS as marketing. My work experience as a market research associate. I did not have any experience in HR, and what should be my approach when questioned about these? Ashish, would you like to say anything?
We have batchmates in HR domain, who have come from very diverse backgrounds. And even myself, I come from electrical engineering background, which has almost nothing to do with HR. So you don't need to worry about that. But do read something about HR as a domain. You need to have at least revise some of the concepts regarding it. And also the syllabus of XLRI HR is available online. You can look up to that and get some ideas regarding.
I think you should have a little bit to say about what's the motivation behind you, pursuing HR. So if you have any story, or perhaps, just why you are inspired towards it, that would make a good case. There is no issue with the fact that you are making a switch, but then you should have something to justify what's driving that. Yes, and read something about it. I was asked during my interview to if I read anything on the HR in the current affairs in the past few months. So just brushing up a little about the concepts, or just seeing whatever new trends that you are seeing around, something like buzzword like the Great Resignation and all. Just having a little bit of knowledge about what's happening in the entire HR world will help you sail through the interview. So the next question is. Tejas is asking if we took any coaching or mentorship for GDPI. Who would like to?
So personally, I did reach out to a lot of my seniors, undergraduate seniors who are currently in B schools, including some of the seniors who are currently at XLRI as well. And I did consult them a lot in terms of my SOPs, my personal interview questions, answers preparation as well. And some of them also helped me with taking some mock interviews. And that did really help me fine tune some of my answers and prep me better for the interviews. So I think something like that might help you.
I personally met a few people who on a social media who had calls from XLRI, and most of us converted it. We prepared for GDPI together. I did not take any coaching or mentorship from any institute. And if you need to take it, you can, or else you can also reach out to almost all the four of us, or any kind of senior from XLRI, even those who have passed out. We can provide you coaching.
Yeah, actually, I also did not seek any mentorship or coaching for my GDPI round. But in case you do need some help, you can reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to help you. So Sanmeet is asking that he has work-ex of 15 months in his family business, in which he has been involved in the HR and marketing roles. So would a family business be a negative? Also, I have made a mistake in the work-ex section in my application. Sanmeet, we have a few people in our batch who have experience in their family businesses, or some people who have dealt in their own startups. So that is not an issue at all. They will ask you a lot of questions about how you have been handling. So make sure that you have been involved, and it is and the stuff that you're talking about. So that's not an issue. About the mistake that you have made in the work-ex section, maybe you can clarify those things in the interview itself. Anybody else who has anything to say?
So family business, I don't think can be negative in any way unless you have actually done it. Because if you're faking it, trust me, they will know you're faking it. The questions that they ask, at one point, they will figure out. So just make sure you know everything in and out about your family business, because as it is your business, you have a lot of stake in it. So make sure you come off as you were invested in it, and whatever you're saying is authentic, and then I think you should be good.
So just one more thing to what Shivani and Kanika said. I'll just like to add something, is that you should be very clear as to now why are you moving away from the family business. Now, why are you pursuing an MBA, and later do you plan to join the family business back or not? In the answers of both yes and no, you should have very strong reasoning for that, right? Because since you already have an option of going back and working in the family business, you should have a very clear answers to these kind of questions as to why you are investing your 2 years of time at an MBA college if you again plan to go back. And if you don't plan to go back and step into a corporate career, why do you want to do that? So you should have clear answers to questions like that.
And I think they should also be prepared with a lot of numbers, like what has been the growth, what has been, the profitability and whatever. You think you should be ready with a little bit of number crunching as well with your family business thing. Going on to the next question, Ankit Jhunjhunwala is asking that, can I mention I want to pursue BM Finance in XLRI since I have a CFA and FRM background. So we don't have anything called BM Finance, but the BM guys are going to tell you more about it.
Yeah, so what happens is first year is actually common to everyone in BM. Second year, you get to select your electives and your specialization is decided upon that. So there's nothing called BM Finance. But yeah, going with your question, you have a CFA and FRM background. So that just adds up to your why MBA question. I think it would be good if you mention it and relate to how an MBA would help you in your career or in whatever you want to pursue further. And that's that, I think.
Yeah. Next question is from Weber. Does XLRI extend SOP deadlines usually? I don't think so. Wasn't the case.
No.
Last year maybe they did extend the deadline by a couple of days, but I would not suggest you to take any chances.
Do not wait for the deadlines to be extended and make sure that you're done.
Also try to submit it like half an hour or in case network problems arise. Don't leave it for the last minute.
And in case you do submit it prior to the deadline and then the deadline get extended, then don't worry, you will be able to again submit an edited version.
Sameen is asking, would a personal family story involving parents be okay to mention in the setback question of the SOP?
So I'll take that up. So having any kind of a setback story involving your family is absolutely okay to mention in your SOP if you have now seen what the positives and negatives of that are and you have learned something out of it. Any kind of a setback story should not actually have an angle where you are trying to gain sympathy of the interviewers, right? You should always have a current positive outlook towards that setback. That, okay, fine, that setback happened with me. These are the learnings that I withdrew from those kind of challenges that I faced. This is what I learned. And now I am absolutely fine with it or whatever. Now I have moved on in my life or something like that. That kind of a positive outlook, if you have, and if you can project that, then I think you can mention something like that in your SOP.
Great. Next question is that, how can I stand out against the crowd? I am a GEM 98 percentile and have heard that median percentile at JSR is 99. I have 18-month work ex. Anything I can do in this 1 month to give an extra edge? Remanku, Ashish.
So yeah, so I'll go first, then Ashish can take it forward. So I am also a GEM and I had only 96.7 percentile and I converted both BM and HR. So please do not feel like any lower percentile than what the median is actually going to play negatives. Just prepare well for the interviews. Just focus on whatever is being discussed on this live session itself, I think. And just that is what you should do in the next 1 month, which I think will give you an extra edge.
Once you get the call, just don't focus on what percentile you have or what UG college or what work ex you have. Just focus on the interview. Because if you think about it repeatedly, either you will get a superiority complex or an inferiority complex. Just try to focus on the interview and give your best. Don't think about anything else.
Ankit is asking, how can I connect with you guys for mock PIs? Like I said, you can ping us on LinkedIn and we can, help you out in whatever ways that we can. What is the weightage of GK and SA in VAT? Do they ask questions from SA in PI?
Yeah, so weightage of GK and SA is not defined per se, and according to the people we have in our batch, there's no way you can even estimate it. We also have crowd with 44 percentile in GK in the batch, so you don't need to worry a lot about your GK or SA scores for that matter. And about SA related questions in PI, so I don't think they do, but still, if you've written an essay, you should be thorough with it. Why you've written it, what your motivation behind it was. You should have your explanations ready for it. But as far as that is concerned, I have not heard about anyone who was asked questions about their essay in the PI. So
same, I never heard about the essay questions being asked in the PI. There is a question during the last year. Have you done anything to advance your knowledge in any domain? Should I write about my work ex or I like playing chess? Will it be fine to mention about this? It is going to be absolutely fine if you talk about chess, but just make sure that you really do know something about chess. Again, do not give any superfluous answer. If you have been reading about chess or anything for that matter, be it work experience or any other hobby, make sure that you do know something substantial about it, because if the professors steer the conversation and you do not know anything about, and if it comes across that you are just mentioning something that you have very superfluous knowledge about, doesn't give a good impression. The professors, they are well read about everything, so if you try to act smart, they will catch you very quick.
Yeah, so I second what Kanika just said. You can write about your work experience, your UG, anything you did in your UG, any subject that you studied, or any personal hobby or interest that you developed. But again, the important thing is the growth and the learning. And specifically, it's mentioned in the question, what have you done during the last year? So you should have a specific timeline in your mind as to what exactly did you do in the last 12 months, which actually led to the growth that you are saying has. So
Vandan is asking that I want to get into management consulting role. I have 20 months experience as a risk consultant. What questions can I expect related to that?
So, Vandana, what I would like to say about it is that management consulting role, I don't think mentioning something this niche is going to prompt questions very much related to it. But again, 20 months. Yeah, so basically, basics of management is what they would expect out of you, and again, questions related to your background. Nothing out of the universe as such.
yeah, I think you should be thorough with whatever you have worked on, the different kinds of projects that you have worked on, and what are the reasons what are the learnings and reasons from your current work experience that have made you to believe that you want to pursue management consulting in the future. So I think these are the kind of things you should focus on.
Right. Vaibhav is asking, there is an essay score. Yes, there is a score for essay, but we don't have a specific cutoff for that per se, right? That was never disclosed. Ankit Junjunwala, can we mention more than one thing in what we have done to advance knowledge in any domain? Pick up one domain and then whatever you have done, it could be more than one thing. Please share your interview experience and some questions asked to you. So my questions were asked about my work experience, and I have a work experience in research, and which involved me to go to a lot of places and also interview and do focus group discussions in the rural part of the country. So a lot of my questions were drawn from that. And XLRI has a very strong affinity towards doing the greater good for the society and being ethical. Ethics is very central to the entire philosophy of this institute. Sorry if there is some noise behind me. Okay. So my questions were actually drawn from research ethics. And they were very niche, but they asked me how we maintain the sanctity of ethics while doing research, especially while questioning people who come from the lower strata of the society or in the rural parts of the country. It's very niche, but apart from that, they asked me what current affairs that have I read about human resource management. They actually asked me a few questions on quants.
I think it's okay. Would you want any one of us to go ahead? Kanika? I don't think.
Kanika, you're not audible.
Okay, fine. Then in the meantime, I'll go ahead, and by the time probably the audio.
So they were fumigating. Am I audible now?
Yeah. You are audible.
Yeah. So machines were around, so there was a lot of noise. I'm sorry. Was there any part that was not audible?
All of it
You
was audible.
Okay.
All of it was audible. Yeah.
Anybody else would like to share their interview insights?
Yeah. So I'll divide my answer in terms of both the HR and the BM interview and what was asked. As Kanika mentioned, the greater common good and ethics. I think these two principles, these two pillars that XLRI stands on was very central to both my interviews. Both my interviews, somewhere or the other, did revolve around ethics, did revolve around the greater common good. And in terms of my HR interview, I was asked why I wanted to pursue HR. I was asked about the HR policies at my current organizations, the policies that I like, the policies that I dislike. I had specifically worked with both blue collar and white collar employees. So I was asked differences between their behavior in terms of what their working behavior is, what are the differences, what are the similarities, and how did I actually manage to work particularly well with both of them. So those were the kind of questions that was asked. And again, questions from SOP were directly asked again. And there were questions asked from my answers to the answers that I had in my SOPs. And there were questions also asked from my introduction. So I would say your SOP, your tell me something about your self-introduction, your why MBA, why HR, these answers become far more important, especially in terms of your XLRI interviews. And that's about the HR interview. In terms of the BM interview, I think I was again asked questions related to the SOP, and I was asked questions related to my work experience. In one of my answers, I had mentioned how I like to draw parallels between music and businesses. So I was asked, what did I actually learn from music that I actually applied in my current work experience job? So those were the kind of on-spot questions that they were there, and you can expect similar questions like that. You might even be given situation-based questions as to if suppose this was to happen, then what would you do? Right? So in those kind of questions, I think they are trying to test not just your structured thinking, which is a first and foremost, but also apart from that, your ethics and value systems, and how you actually take care of all the stakeholders that are there in place, and your objectivity skills. So I think that covers my interview experience.
So about me, again, I would divide my answer into BM and HR interviews. In my HR interview, what happened was, in my introduction itself, I had mentioned about reading and painting. And two of the three professors in that panel seemed to be very much involved in reading. So they asked me about the last book I had read. That led to about 5-6 minutes conversation about that book. From there, the conversation escalated to democracy, what I understood about democracy and how democracy is applicable in a campus like XLRI. They tried to give me a few situations and what would the ideal decision of the admin would be in those situations. So basically, what I got from that conversation was they were trying to gauge what mentality I'm coming from. They were trying to gauge what ethical system I had behind me. So yeah, that's that. From there, the conversation went to my work experience, and they were trying to know how what from my work has motivated me to pursue HR. They asked me a few HR policies in my office, what the good ones and the bad ones. About the bad ones, after I mentioned the policies that I thought could be improved, they asked me what I did to improve them. And I actually hadn't done anything, and I honestly mentioned it. That is my mistake. I did not do anything. I did not say anything about it. So yeah, that's that. About BM, my BM interview was work experience heavy. They tried to go deeper into the technical aspects of my work. I worked in automobile, as I mentioned before, in the research and development department. So they went deeper and deeper about my daily work and what I learned from it. Then they tried to confuse me between two technical terms that I only had used. So be thorough with whatever you are saying in and out, and that's about it. And again, some behavioral questions: why BM, why not HR, all of those. So that you should be thorough about 100%. Yeah.
During my introduction in the interview, I mentioned that reading film criticism is my hobby, which is quite something niche. So the professors focused on that, and I was asked to defend criticism because they believe that art is something that needs to be focused on. And the conversation went quite deep. We talked about French cinema of the 1960s. And one other question I was asked was, why was I choosing to do MBA as a fresher and not after a couple of years of ethics? And the second part of the interview focused on my UG subjects, and the questions in that part also went quite deep. So try to be thorough regarding concepts of UG subjects, especially if you are a fresher. And also in your hobbies, don't mention something you've dabbed at some time in your life. Only mention that which you can define, and it's something that you are knowledgeable much about, because the professors know more than you. And try to be honest, because in the second half of the interview, I mentioned I don't know like 5 or 6 times. So it's okay to say I don't know. Don't try to bluff. That's about it.
Okay. So Vinayak Tiwari is asking that I have a background in civil services preparation, and what questions can I expect in that? How should I prepare for that? So I also have a background in civil services preparation. That's perfectly all right. But you need to, like, it should show that you know things. They can ask you about anything from economics to constitution, polity, history, about your own city, your state. So just make sure that you really do know about all those things. Then they can ask you what takeaways that you can probably have from the civil services preparation to something like management. And there are a lot of takeaways. They might ask you something about corporate governance. They might ask you something about ethics, because ethics play a very central role in something like civil services, and ethics also play a very pivotal role in something like management. So be prepared about all these things, and it's perfectly fine if you have a gap year or so. We see a lot of people around with several gap years over here. So just make sure that whatever question comes your way, you should look like somebody who knows a lot of things about a lot of things. So yeah. Okay. So Ankit Junjunwala is asking, what kind of roles are offered in placement for BM grads in finance? Shivankur, Shivani.
So specifically in terms of finance, there are a lot of investment banking roles that do come to our campus. Apart from that, a lot of people with background in finance do prefer to go into management consulting as well. And apart from investment bankings, I think corporate banking and even in-house banking for FMCG companies, those kind of roles are also offered.
I have HRM and BM interviews, but targeting BM, what things to focus on? And can you share some about what questions a gem with 6 months of work ex in ops can expect?
In my opinion, someone with 6 months of work ex can actually be considered as good as a fresher by the interviews. So again, your UG subjects, as Ashish would also agree, your UG subjects are of utmost importance in terms of your interviews. And then again, whatever you have learned in your work ex in the last 6 months becomes very imperative. How you have worked around people, what are the things that you have picked up, and things like that. And again, as we have all mentioned again and again repeatedly in this session, be very confident and thorough of whatever you are mentioning in your interview.
Great. So Razul is asking, I left my job last year and went to Himalayas for 2 months and came back to learn piano, prepare for CAT-ZAT. Any pointers if I can include this in SOP? Ashish, would you like to take up that?
I believe that any kind of a personal story in itself will not be supportive of your admission, and it will also not act as a deterrent. But what is your takeaway from that? And also, you can go personal about it. There's no worry in that. There's no problem in writing anything about that. But don't try to use it at something that is going to help you, because your takeaway and your willingness to learn and your professional degree and everything is going to help in that. So don't rely on it, I would say.
I believe that if you are 2 months in Himalayas, and I think you must have a lot of observations, a lot of things you must have learned from that journey of yours. Do you have something to say about that? I hope it's not a superfluous, travel. I mean, you can learn about the culture. You can say something about maybe the geography. You can say something about the economics of the region. So you need to make some intelligent observations from your stay. And if you can successfully articulate on.
I think Kanika's voice is breaking up. Can anyone else hear her?
About it, framing a story in such a way that kind of builds a story for you. So the next question is from Arushi. Is XLRI gender identity supportive? Yes, XLRI is very supportive towards gender identity. Asmita is asking, do the interviews know about our category, example OBC, ST, SC? Not sure about this.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, probably they do, but it does not play any kind of a role or any kind of a factor in your selection or not. XLRI particularly does not have reservations as well for any categories. And I don't think it will play any kind of a role in your selection chances.
Beza was asking any reason why they asked about democracy.
Yeah. So the book that I had mentioned was India After Gandhi, and that is a lot about democracy.
So yeah, so whatever you mentioned really steers the conversation. So I hope you know what you're mentioning, because it might just be a rabbit hole after that. Radioactive is asking, I have a last doubt. I mentioned HR as my first preference, but I didn't get shortlist due to less percentile in verbal ability section. Now they can grill me on that. How to tackle this? Ashish?
You need to defend it, to be honest, during the interview. The less versatile in way is not something they would like to question you on. So no worries about that. But obviously, if your preference is something and you're giving an interview for something else domain, you need to do it. What you can do is try to portray MBA as a holistic chance for you to get knowledge about the corporate world. Don't try to think much about it, because that's something already done.
Shivam Gupta, are HRM answers and BM answers evaluated separately? Like, can I mention different incidents but involving the same college fest?
So In my case, in both my HRM and BM interviews, my interviews were very SOP heavy. But I don't think the HRM questions are actually with the BM interviewers and the BM questions. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just taking a calculated guess, because in my HRM interview, I was asked questions from the 4 questions that were related to HR. And in my BM interview, I was asked questions from my BM part of the interview. So if these 2 incidents that you are mentioning are actually very exclusive of each other, of the same college fests, and the kind of learnings that you had from it are very different, then I think, yes, you can go ahead and mention.
Yeah, adding to that, if your question is about the SOP answers of BM and HRM, so I think as long as your learnings are different, as long as you can frame stories so differently that they do not look very similar, I think you should be okay even if they read both the answers. So that's not a thing to worry about.
Somebody is asking, I completed my BSc in Zoology Honors in 2022 and had planned to start a small business, which I'm going to launch soon. So can I mention my learnings in the domain question in SOP? So if it's a business that you haven't even begun yet, I'm not sure if it's your domain already. Like, I would suggest you stick to something from zoology. But Primanko, do you have anything to say about this?
Again, if the kind of learning and the kind of takeaways that you have from this particular thought or plan of starting the business is actually significant enough that you feel that can create a great impact in the interview, then probably you can go ahead and mention something like that. But then be prepared for questions like, why did you still not start it yet? Or how are you going to plan to continue it once you join an MBA program? And if you already had something like this in mind, then why plan for an MBA at all? So if you are going ahead with an answer like that, just be prepared for the follow-up questions that might come.
True. Do we have any more questions pouring in? All right, then. Let's end the session here. And thanks a lot, Premankur, Ashish, and Shivani for joining in. It was a wonderful time talking to you, and I hope we have been able to satisfy all your queries. And in case you still have any questions for us, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can message us over there, and we can help you. And you can, in fact, reach out to any other current or past XLRI student, and we'll be more than happy to help you with anything that you need help with. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.
Thank you.